And I just wanted to kind of get a bunch of things out there at once and acknowledge a few things that we're having issues with and what's going on. So everybody knows, presumably, that the school's closed and that we're not having anything go on at the church at all except for worship services of no more than 9 people at a time, and that on our major services on Sunday now, we're live streaming those. So that's what's happening around here that's sort of obvious and that affects the most people. But there's some other things that I wanted to be explicit about. In the first place, we're not having a voters meeting in April. So our Constitution actually requires 2 voters meetings a year, one in October, one in April, and we were supposed to have it on Palm Sunday, and we didn't because of all the stuff going on. At that voters meeting, we were supposed to approve the budget for the coming fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. And we were going to get reports, and we also were going to consider some constitutional changes. They were really nothing major. It was just some stuff that the English District of the Missouri Synod suggested so it would be more clear. For example, it was going to be explicit that we would only call pastors who are rostered in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. It said that in another place in the Constitution already, but they wanted it twice. So it wasn't a big deal, but we do want to do it and get those things fixed, but it can wait. So that can wait, the reports can wait, the budget can stay frozen where it is, and we can proceed. We don't know what our finances are anyway. So we're just simply delaying the voters meeting. We could technically probably have one by Zoom. Zoom meetings have been declared legal for all sorts of things that they probably wouldn't have been, but they are now. The bishop says we can do Zoom voters meetings, but not everybody in the Synod agrees. Imagine that. I don't think there's any reason to do it if we don't have to. The only things that the council can't do between voters meetings is call pastors, which we're not going to be doing, sell property, and I can't remember, something else. But the council can take care of responding. The council can even change the budget if it needs to and do these other things. Anything the council does, of course, would be reported to the voters, and they'll be accountable to the voters. So no voters meeting. The council is going to just proceed with leadership and making these decisions as they need to on a day-to-day basis. And right now we've just been having a little bit of discussions and things by email with the elders, with the chairman, and so forth, but we could do a Zoom council meeting. And I am intending on having our May council meeting, so the second Sunday in May. And by that time, we're hoping that we'll have enough financial information of how this has impacted us and so forth that we can make decisions that we need to make, and we'll let you know what happens there. All right, the other thing that when you do come to church for service, if you're able to, we started some major, we finished some major building projects, all of this headed up by Effie Sharon, who's our head trustee, including to remodel the youth room beautifully so that it's now a cafeteria for the school. New kitchen cabinets and sink and painted and blinds. It's gorgeous down there. It's going to work out beautifully. Also, a library for the school behind the choir loft, so behind the organ pipe, those 3 little Sunday school rooms with those beautiful stained glass windows. The walls were knocked out between those, and now we have this beautiful room with these stained glass, and that's going to be a wonderful library. We also had some roofs patched. They had some leakage on the flat roofs, and then we had some drainage fixed in the playground. So those are all completed, and we have a number of people to thank. Effie for heading it up, quite a few volunteers. Tom Case from the Carpenters Union, they volunteered and helped us with destruction of those walls. Greenfielder Associate Architects, Ed Welling, did free consultation for us so that we knew they weren't load-bearing walls. Chris Batchelder and also John Milton, electricians, did quite a bit of work for us, along with the electrical union for free. Brett Riley donated a dumpster for that, so we didn't have to pay for that. Brad Miller of CMS installed new deflectors in the gutters, sealed the gutters, and also patched 2 of our roofs free. Jim Burkott of Burkott Construction, that would be oh my goodness, how in the world? Ruth and I can't believe, we're going to have to stop this because I can't, Paul, my goodness. Paul and Ruth Burkott's son and their company. They buried the downspout in the playground for us. Jimmy Kiernan of Hall Aluminum fixed the playground door. So all of those did that for free for us, and we're very thankful for it. We got those projects done. We are in the process of doing some other projects, and we approved a number of things just recently. The whole building needs to be tuck pointed. So we're having some water damage because it's getting in between the bricks. So we went ahead and approved that. Those two flat roofs that CMS patched for free need to be replaced. It's the one on the ambulatory, so that's the south side of the sanctuary, and then the one above the foyer off the parking lot. Those need to be replaced. And then also we're tearing out the heating in the school building, so in those maintenance closets, the old air handlers, and we're going to install 3 furnaces in there that will include air conditioning. So new heating and air conditioning in the school building or the office building. And that will enable us then, it'll lower our heating and air conditioning bills. It will also mean we have air conditioning in the whole building, so we'll be able to use the cafeteria and the room that the Bach Collegium is currently using, which right now can't really be used in the summer, and the upstairs and some other stuff. And then heating and air conditioning also in that new library behind the school building, or behind the choir loft. So that's being supported by the endowment fund, and so we're not needing to do any fundraising for that. We had, the congregation had some liquid assets, and so did the endowment. The contractors were kind of hungry for work right now. They gave us some very good deals on that and some terms. So it turned out to be, it looks like a good time to do that, and we're hopeful it'll proceed quickly and we'll all benefit from it and be back in the building soon. In terms of pastoral care, what we're doing and have been doing, of course, primarily is to have Holy Communion and to offer it to whoever is able to come. And you're able to come if you're not having any symptoms and you're not sick, and if you feel comfortable with it, basically. Of course, it's not a completely perfectly sterile environment, but we are taking great precautions and going to great lengths to strictly follow the CDC guidelines. We're voluntarily doing this in accordance with the governor's request. Nobody's making us do this, but we think it's the best thing. We recognize that there's a lot of disagreement over what's the right response to this particular crisis, if the crisis is even legitimate. And I don't think we're ever going to agree. Hindsight's not going to be 20/20. So the Civil War has been over for 155 years, and Americans do not agree on why the Civil War was fought. So I suspect that 3-4 years from now, people will look back at this time, and they will either say that all of these measures were absolutely necessary, and they saved lives, and we should thank God for them, and maybe we could have done more. And another whole group of people will say, the fact that not more people died proved it was stupid, and we shouldn't have done it at all. And they're probably never going to agree. And I don't think we're ever going to really know. I mean, not from a way that we can be dogmatic about. We're all going to have our opinions, of course. So it's a messy situation. It's complicated. And there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of competing experts. And we are trying to respond appropriately. The thing that I keep hearing people say is that we are in uncharted territory in the church. The church has never had something quite like this before. We've had other plagues and pandemics, but the mortality rate was far, far worse, and we didn't have the technology, and we didn't know as much about germ spread. So it was, I mean, they were similar in some ways, but they were radically different. And so it's uncharted territory. And the other thing is it's fluid. It keeps changing. And I think both of those are apt ways of speaking about this reality. And what that means is that if it's uncharted territory, no one knows what he's doing. So we're doing our best. We're making decisions with the information that we have, which may or may not be accurate, which may or may not have come to us in a timely manner, and which is changing. So we need to be open to reconsidering our decisions. We need to be charitable to one another in making these decisions and not condemn one another, even for wrong decisions. So even if you think your neighbor is wrong to do whatever he's doing, or you think Pastor Fries and I are wrong to do what we're doing, we're asking you to be gracious and that we would be gracious to one another, and in recognizing that none of us is all wise and knows what he's doing. So our understanding is that the sacrament of the altar is necessary for faith. It's not absolutely necessary. It is possible to live in a Siberian prison or in Auschwitz or somewhere else for years perhaps without the sacrament of the altar, and for God to sustain faith through the word that he has implanted in our hearts. But that's not the way we were meant to live. We were meant to live with word and with sacrament, and God didn't give it to us as a luxury or in some superfluous manner. In desperate times, we might live without it for a time, and we might abstain from it for a time if we're sick or we need to do so, but it certainly is not the way we're meant to live. This is not in any way a strange thing for us to figure out a way to try to give Holy Communion to the people who are able to receive it and are worthy to receive it. So that's what we're doing, and that's why we're doing it. And if you're not able to come because you're not well or because you're not comfortable, for whatever reason, you don't need to explain that to us. We don't need to know why you're uncomfortable. You can have we expect you to have absolutely legitimate reasons. We're not judging you for not coming, and we're not pressuring anyone to come, but we want to have it available for those who can and who can receive benefit from it. There's no guarantee that you won't get sick from receiving Holy Communion. The Bible has no passages that says the chalice can't carry germs. It could, I don't know. There's been studies that say it doesn't, so forth, but who knows, right? What we know is that God promises to be present in his risen body and blood for us for the forgiveness of sins and the strengthening of our faith, and it will be a blessing to us and a benefit. But if we do stupid stuff with it, there could be consequences. So we have to take that risk. And that's what we're doing, those who can do so inappropriately. So we're going to have a follow-up video that goes into what we're doing at these services precisely, and explains the precautions that we're taking and so forth. But I at least wanted to explain a little bit about why we're doing it and just generally what we're doing. So that's our primary pastoral care, is preaching and the sacrament of the altar in these services for those who are able to come. The second thing that we are doing is we're making phone calls. So all of you by now, I certainly hope, have received a phone call or at least a message on your answering machine. We're trying to call everybody every household in the congregation once every 2 weeks. So we started out with just Pastor Fries and I making those phone calls, and now we've involved the field workers, and they're making some of them as well. So by now, I think I've talked to almost everyone, and I bet Pastor Fries has come close to that as well. And those have been actually really enjoyable, and we're just checking up on you, making sure you know what's going on, but it's been good. The third thing that we're doing is we do have these services. The main worship service on Sunday morning is being live streamed, and part of what we do there is we're still only having 10 people in the building. So the pastor plus 9 other people, and one of those is an organist, and one of those is running the video. So we have a 7-person choir, basically, and we're bringing in ringers for those services so that we can try to have the kind of nicest and fullest sound so people can participate. And we're deliberately ending the broadcast without showing who takes communion at those services. So we don't want people to be exposed to judgment from their neighbors and so forth, and they don't need to know that. So it's a communion service, and those people are receiving communion, but nobody really needs to watch them do that. I forgot to say earlier with all the other services that 9 people at a time, you have to sign up for those. The doors are locked, the building is closed. It's a private service for those people that have signed up. And you sign up through our website, so you can find it pretty easily, but if you have trouble at all, just give us a call and we can help you, or we can even do it for you over the phone. But we are being strict about that in only letting that number of people in. We're hoping, of course, that might be lifted on May 1st. Governor Holcomb said as much, that it very well could be on Friday, and he repeated it again on Monday. So the live stream is not our main source of pastoral care, and I don't think it can be, because that's not the way the gospel really works and what God has given us to do. So we can talk on the phone, and there can be a conversation, and the Word of God and prayer can be brought to bear. More ideally, of course, we could actually see you person to person, and if you need us to do that in whatever circumstances, we'll be very glad to do so and to arrange that. So even if you can't make one of these 9-person services for whatever reason, because of your own comfort level or exposure level, if you desire a pastoral call or visit, we'll be glad to make that and would enjoy doing that. And then finally, we do have also on our website some devotional material, reading plans. We've been trying to encourage everybody to read more of the Bible during this time. So I would love if everybody was reading the Bible every day, all the time, even when things are really easy in this world, but now add to it. And we're about to run out of the latest reading schedule, so we need to get a new one up there. But to try to add to your devotional reading and to read more of the Bible and some other stuff. That brings me to, how are we doing financially? Well, I don't really know. Jane says that she thinks the money's coming on in pretty good. So I hope that's true. We don't have real quite numbers yet. But certainly we do know that so many of you have been so supportive and encouraging throughout this and have taken your obligation to support the church with your money and with your prayers and with your presence very seriously, and thank you for that. We don't have an online giving source, a company that we contract that takes a cut of it for this. So those things do exist, but we haven't engaged any of them. And that's just because we don't want them to take a cut. We don't want to pay for that service. So that has to do with not just us wanting to get all the money, it has to do with the people that give it wanting it to all to go to the church. So the thing we've encouraged people to do, and lots of people have done and had good success with, is to use their bank automatic paying service or bill paying service. And you can talk to Jane in the office about this, but she can kind of guide you through it. You can set it up very easily with your bank at no fee to you. They don't even charge you for the stamp, where they will mail us a check automatically, however often you say, in whatever month, however amount. So you could say, send $1 a week to Redeemer Lutheran Church, and they'll just do it automatically, and it'll show up on your bank statement. Or you could say, send $1 every other week. And I think you can also do it where they have to prompt you, and where you have to tell them the amount each time. So it depends on your bank, but that really works well. Obviously, the post office is still working, so we appreciate the old-fashioned people that just put a stamp on an envelope and send it in that way. And then, of course, if you're able to come to these services, we don't pass an offering plate, but we do have an offering plate that you can drop your offering in. So I think, I don't know how we're doing. The Lord will provide, and we'll wait and see. All right, we've also got, I wanted to remind you that, I can't remember when we had this voters meeting, January or February, but we voted to get a vicar for this coming school year. And that's all, of course, in terms of how they're doing it and what the services all been sort of goofed up by this whole thing. But we've been told by the seminary that we're going to get a vicar. The district president called me a couple weeks ago to confirm that. And that is now going to be that service when he is officially assigned to us, will be on Wednesday, April 29th. They're going to do it all online. There isn't going to be anything, anybody in the building wherever they are. And our soon-to-be vicar will be sitting in his house with his family, waiting to hear the news, watching on a computer screen. So you can watch that too, and we'll put the information up about that. And then the last thing we have some great news. We had a new baby, David Cummings, born early this morning to Jenna and David Cummings. So life goes on, and we praise God for that. I hope you'll be able to watch the follow-up video with the details about the service, and give us a call or send us an email if you want to give us some feedback. We'll be glad to receive it. Thank you.